Picture T.S. Eliot as Magus, stopping a raindrop mid-air, asking of it how it turns the world on its head, inquiring whence it came, what relation to the fountain into which it will shortly merge and ping concentric rings. Hard to imagine Thomas Stearns dancing, letting loose. Pedantic fallacies aside, we suspect he is prufrock, afraid of peaches, their suggestive juice upon his chin. Oh, humor, so highfalutin, who laughs among the bushes? But here's Tom Magus dancing between raindrops, between past and present, afraid of getting wet. He has good reason, because Tom, you see, would like to be a Tesla of poetry, one who grounds electricity. A cloud full of lightning settles over his laboratory. Upon his counter, a compass, a crucified frog, notes. At heart, it's a romantic experiment, but the air is so thick with erudition, he floats above the earth. Let us go now where Tom cavorts with mermaids, and drown him in human voices in the fountain, in dangerous weather, under the cloud, under the roses, where the present dies and the past lies etherized. Hard to imagine Thomas Stearns at sex, but picture him nevertheless a Ken doll, anatomically intact, engaging that end of life, taking the creative force by the hips, as it were, knocking at heaven's door. One wonders, did he ever make it? Come, let us make our terrestrial visit. Dog, dig love up again where it gangrenes in the chest of that corpse in the unreal city. Pinch your nose, roll up your sleeves, breathe. You stir stagnant waters. Do not ask, what dream is this? Remember her hair-catching sun, a solar flare as kingfishers catch fire, as retinas reflect, pupils glare, and so she sits at the bottom of the stair, shielding such wonderful eyes as awaken eyes everywhere. Weave, sunlight, and hair. We are almost there. Spells last a spell only, and new poets plow hell, drop seed, speak sparks, and drive the dark mares. Hooves flashing, cleave dark, the sheen of their coats rivering, rushing their gleam over the beams of the moon, pressing through shrouds of gloom. Look there again, and see again, witness the heart in its dark cage sing. And when the heart dies, with his words he digs it up again, defibrillates, syncopates, hops between drops, at least Hopkins does, and Thomas in his wake like reggae sprung on frogs' legs, leaping green from stagnant waters. In the good old days, Tom Magus needed merely turn a phrase, and the raindrop obeyed. Now the great globe itself is a substantial, overcrowded pageant, and the rain crashes upon an ordinary man, soaking him, tearing through roses, driving the laughter out of the bushes, shrieking into the shape of children. The once ecstatic act turns spectator sport, turned porn, and no trick up any sleeve escapes the singular gravity of innuendo. So the wet hierophant must screw deeper into prose, exchange his starry robes for a trench coat, a cape, a reversible poncho, that he might turn the outside in and the inside out before diving after himself. Trouble is, when Thomas Stearns gazes into the mirror, a wintry erudition sweeps in, crystallizing his reflection. Too much reality, sore-footed, refractory, world-wizened, we plod a burnt wasteland with parched camel. The mind coils under a rock of the brain to hide from magi, who sling slogan and symbol like a bolus, tripping me into you, spellbinding first-person I after I into fasces. Shadows cast the matter, and so they see no shadow. Time present, and DJ Boxer finds his grooves, drops his needles, mixes a medley of time past, and wraps a pastiche fusion of poetry, spins new unions into a clockwise spell turning on borrowed magic. Not for my ego alone, I pick like a bag lady, like Suzanne in rags and feathers, like a seagull among wasteful tourists salvaging morsels. By no machinish trick, I must redeem the shells of the small present for living sand dollars. One might rightly ask, faced with Prufrock's patient bled out by barber science, its brains set upon the scale, its clockwork ticker laid aside, does one turn back with Eliot to Christ, sprawled and wriggling on his pins? By way of answer, let's revisit Dr. Tom and his lab. We find he has harnessed reason to voltaic chemistry, and behold, as he declares in his best German, "It's alive!" The trouble now is death himself has risen, and with what dread teeth he spreads the poison. Death, in a lab coat, mixes up the medicine, and gone is the fountain, the laughter in the rose bushes. Only accident now ripples air and puddle in the garden. Zombie Tom laughs at evil. Silly superstition, that. He seeks instead to explain the cathedral by the quartz and rust in its rocks, his work confirmed by rounds of priests who walk the briar, loosing the gowns of desire. Shrouded in clouds of cordite and mustard gas, scented with a whiff of Zyklon and Nazi oven smoke, with sour notes of death from Vosrodinia, an aftertaste of rip-roaring rape, of a shadow burnt into a wall. Evil stands defrocked. No poetry can salvage, no aesthetic rehabilitate, no religion exonerate God. Only atoms now, and molecules remain. Surveillance and chemical castration will correct the criminal vein of evolution. Lend the zombie a hand. What harm now? Liberty, too, is but a baseless byproduct, and love-making and beauty are for dupes who think they have a soul, fools who seek a wizard at the levers of the world. Sadly, my friends, the etherized patient has died. What catalyst, then, turns Thomas Stearns from his lab toward the mannequins in the sanctuary? A recognition. Remember that frog on the cross? When the leg of that frog twitches, the needle of the compass spins as if bewitched. Magic is alive. God is afoot, but not as before. This time, magus and priest wear white coats. They clock, weigh, measure, tabulate data. Magic in sober spectacles, after a deep breath and a coffee break, admits to simple magnetism, and God rubs his eyes, consults his watch, says, "This is not what I meant at all." The terms have changed, and like snakeskin lie in a heap. That corpse, the mannequins, the cathedral itself are empty, true. Now time present is the time to imbue. Magic now plays with magnets. God speaks evolution. The compass points where the twins reflect, where shadows spring from the lantern, where sparks fork forth from the dark, volts vault and shock from the knot. Mannequins do not ignite crusades. Zombies, however, those with pumps for hearts and algorithmic brains, who heap the world with beans for counting. Shadows who scoff at their own mystery will one night find the world knows only shadow, and amounts to much the same as when witches brewed and vampire kings arose, and mythic knights slew dragons for their gold. In short, they'll find all the work of ages undone, for the soul is no vestigial set of gills causing hiccups. When Thomas Stearns enters the sanctuary, it is not a turning away, but rather a cabling of the dry, linear mind to the etheric fountain of fantasy. He braves the choir, Sweeney among the pederists, to kick up the old dance. DJ Boxer plays the flip side in countertime. Reality emerges like children with arms spread, walking the fountain ledge, a teetering processional dance, tilting, leaping, laughing, troubling the rose bushes and the gorgeous world into being.